Our facilitators for this evening, myself, Karen Katusian, Associate Director of Alumni Engagement, followed by Lisa Galasso, Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement at SJC Long Island. We also have Paige Carbone, Director of Alumni Engagement for St. Joseph's College, as well as Elena DiMaria, our intern at the Office of Alumni Engagement. Now we'd like to introduce our featured speaker to you. Her name is Janine Stange, once again, business major, class of 1999, and she's going to be sharing with you some of her insights, her experiences, and some of her anecdotes on some of the things that helped her achieve one of the greatest goals that I think I've ever heard about. So we're going to pass it over to Janine.
Thank you so much. And you know, I don't see that the app is downloaded. So I need to hang up on this and I'll be right back on in 2 seconds. So hold on. I'll start talking. I could do this at the same time, I think. Thank you guys so much for having me. And I did graduate from St. Joseph's College, and I have to say that one of the best things ever was being part of that school because they actually allowed me to really firsthand have my hands on things that would be able to help me to see how to get results. And they were awesome about that. So I'm about to join. Sorry, everybody. I'm going to request the presenter role in 2 seconds. And do I have it? I've got it, right? Can everybody hear me? Okay. I think we're good. Okay, so I have a couple things that I'm going to talk to you about. Okay, I'm glad you guys can hear me. Sorry about that. Again, like I said, thank you so much to Paige and everyone at Taryn for helping organize this. I had an amazing time going to St. Joseph's College, and now it's really exciting to be able to give back and talk about some things I was able to do the years after I graduated. So I'm going to talk about some things. The first thing is my goal, which was to sing the anthem in all 50 states. I'll go over that. I'll talk about the silent killers of goals, and that has to do with two things, brownies and sneakers, so you'll understand in a little bit. And then I'm going to talk about systems and structure, and then there's something called MAP. So first thing, obviously, is that I got to sing the national anthem in all 50 states. It was a life-changing experience. I got to meet a lot of people, and I'll just kind of go a couple through these. The veteran who is on the top left side is a man whose name is Cliff, and he's a 92-year-old World War II veteran who stormed Normandy on D-Day. And it was him who gave me the most practical definition of patriotism I think that exists. And he said, this is our land. We need to love it, live in it, and protect it. And literally from those three words, I've been speaking in elementary schools around the country, talking about that specific experience and how every one of us can do something great for our community and obviously then throughout our country. I got to drive a Coast Guard cutter. That next photo that you see, thankfully nobody threw up or fell overboard, but that I drove to on the 200th anniversary of the Star Spangled Banner to the Star Spangled Buoy, which is the next photo that you see, where 200 years to the day, that is where Francis Scott Key was floating when he saw our flag was still there. And interestingly enough, I didn't realize today is National Anthem Day. 85 years ago today, Herbert Hoover signed the bill that made the Star Spangled Banner our official national anthem. The next photo that you see, that plane, I actually got to fly that plane. That was in Montana, and that's a T-34. I flew it over those mountains you see behind there. I actually didn't do it by myself. I sat in the back. It was a trainer plane, so he let go of the controls, but God forbid I did anything crazy. We would have had him to help. But anyhow, I got to fly a plane, and then also one of the other cool things I got to do among many, many things was there, if you know the movie Captain Phillips, that seat that I'm sitting in is seat 15, which is where Captain Phillips was sitting for 4 days in, like, I think it was 140-degree temperatures. I'm not a huge person, and he was a lot taller than me. Sitting in that seat was extremely uncomfortable, and it's amazing what he went through. Also amazing how our Navy SEALs helped him escape. So those are some of the great things that I got to do on the journey to singing the national anthem in all 50 states. I also ended up, the story made national news It was on Fox and Friends, Today Show, things like that, which was all a lot of fun. And then the last thing recently, last year, sang the national anthem 24 times in 24 hours. I guess you could call me a glutton for punishment. It was absolutely crazy. After that, I had to take a red eye back to New York. So it was in California, flew to New York. We were able to raise about $3,000 for wounded veterans. So that was something I would do again and again, actually, even though it was crazy. The whole reason why I'm here, though, is to talk about goals. And what I did was accomplish a goal. And there were a lot of lessons that I learned along the way. And one of them is just that it's really, really hard. And there are a lot of people that start out with big dreams. And as you see, only 3% of us will ever reach our goals. And I'm here to hopefully help you understand why and how to eliminate those reasons so that you can accomplish things that you've been wanting to do. So the next thing that we have is some story I'd like to share, and it's called The Story of My Impossible Brownies. And this will help you understand a little bit what I'm talking about. I have brownies. If this was FaceTime, I'd be able to show you that I have a box of double chocolate brownies in my freezer, because in California we won't keep those things out. They'll go bad and melt. But it's absolutely impossible for me to make chocolate brownies. Obviously, I don't lack the ingredients. I also have eggs and oil. I don't lack the ability, and I don't have a lack of desire. I mean, who doesn't want brownies? The problem here is that I have no pan. I set the goal. I was in the grocery store one day and said, I'm going to buy this box of brownies and I'm going to make it. I spent the money. I have obviously the ingredients, and I really, really wanted brownies. But the problem was when I got home thinking I was going to be able to do this, I had no foundation. I had no pan. So there's no way I could ever achieve that goal, barring going downstairs to my neighbor and getting a pan or something like that. But literally in my house right now, there's no way I can make them, even though I've got everything and I've got the desire. So it's here that I always say at this point, if you have no foundation, then goals really are garbage. And I'm sure all of you listening probably can say, yes, I at points agree with that. How many of you January 1st set the goal for something you wanted to do? They say statistically by February 12th, people stop. The gyms empty out. All those fitness specials, nobody cares about anymore. You spent the money at it is what it is. I can't do it. So this has a lot to do with, obviously, you've seen this logo, the Just Do It Nike logo. We've all been led to believe that we can just do this. Just do it. That's all. You know what? Let's do it. And there's millions of memes out there on Instagram, everywhere else, that will support that. But it's a delusion. We see it everywhere. Let's do this thing. Let's do this. That's the grumpy cat. Then you've got, let's do this 2016. It's Monday. Let's do this. Okay. It's Wednesday. Let's do this. It's Thursday. Let's do this. What does that even mean? This is something, like I said, it's a just do it delusion, because we all have this big jackrabbit start. We're all going to get going. It's a downward spiral. We can probably relate to this best. Some of you might have gone to like a marketing seminar, or maybe you were wanting to write a book, so you went to like that how to write a book in 30 days kind of thing, and you're all excited. So you're in what I say is really like a delusion, because then it leads to a lot of doubts. You're now done with the seminar. All those people in the room with you clapping and cheering are not there anymore with you, and you're starting to actually calculate the cost. Like, holy macaroni, I didn't realize that I have 20 other things that are going on in my life. Don't think I could do this. You've got then the distraction. You're off track. You've got the people that aren't keeping you going. Everybody's kind of dispersed, so nobody's really in any kind of real direction. Then you find yourself in a dry spell because you've got nobody cheering you on. You're the only person. You're the only one stuck with that book that you bought for $3,000 telling you how you could achieve whatever. Then you're derailed. You're off track. You're derailed. And then you're disappointed, and your dream goes into that little graveyard of everything else that you've got going on that you would love to do, but you just can't do it. So we just ditch it rather than just do it. A delusion is a belief held with strong conviction despite superior evidence to the contrary. Now, that's not to say that we're doing this on purpose, like we all love to self-sabotage or any of that stuff. We're all really sincere when we try to do that. We're trying to be healthy. We're trying to spend more time with our families, or if you have kids, your kids, or you're trying to do better in school, or you're trying to really write that screenplay, whatever that is, we're just sincerely wrong. So the only real person that's happy about the fact that goals are garbage is Oscar the Grouch. All the rest of us really are sad about that. So the burning question is how? How in the world do you get to the point where you really, know how to get to your goals, know that there are certain things that you have to deal with, and you can always be on the top of the mountain? How does that happen? Well, there are two things: systems and structures. Now, I will tell you this, it's not as exciting as the brownie section, but this is where the real work happens. You have to build a structure of systems to support yourself and so that you can achieve your goals. There are two quotes that are really good. One is, "I value self-discipline, but creating systems that make it next to impossible to misbehave is more reliable than self-control." Goals are good for planning your progress, and systems are good for actually making progress. So think about the couple things, or jot them down, the types of things that you have always wanted to do, whatever that might be. I mean, we've all got different things. We all have things in our head probably when I started talking about this subject that you were like, yeah, that would be nice, but whatever. This now is going to be how you can actually get there. I'm going to tell you, because you might be sitting there going, okay, so how do you know? Yay, you sang all 50 states. That's exciting. But I do have a really in-depth backstory of how I had to learn this through blood, sweat, and tears. I went through the just do it delusion, just like I had the brownie box and no foundation, no pan to put the brownie mix in. I was delusional myself. I had this huge idea back in 2010. It was 4.5 years ago from the day I had the idea till the day I finished it. It took 4.5 years. But it really only took me about 2 years to get through all the states. So you could figure out how many years I was sitting there wondering what I was doing and thinking I was actually making progress. How I got the idea to sing the national anthem in all 50 states, I was in San Diego, and you guys most of you probably are in New York, so you could commiserate with me on the traffic situation. I was in a lot of traffic trying to get to a stadium that by the time I got through all the traffic, needed to be on the field singing within 10 minutes. And I had to run past about hundreds of people to this gatekeeper who let me through, thankfully. I told him, you have to let me in. I'm the national anthem girl. He kind of looked at me like I was crazy, but he let me in. So much for security. But as I was running, I was thinking of that name, National Anthem Girl. What a cool name. I always wanted to do something to give back to those who give the song the meaning that it does, our brave men and women who fight and sacrifice. So while I was singing, I was thinking, gosh, if I could attach a good cause to this, I could do a lot of good. We all think about that kind of thing in all the different things that we're passionate about. Some of you might be passionate about helping find a cure for cancer, or all these different things you're passionate about. You really get this one spark of idea. It's the inspiration, and it can be the difference between being delusional or actually directional. And I was delusional for 2 years. I had the idea. I registered the domain name. I got the name, the word National Anthem Girl, the group of words trademarked. I even pitched it as a reality show to huge executive producers in LA. I had no shortage of contacts, no shortage of desire or passion, but nothing was clear. Nothing ended up working out during that very no focus zone that I was in. And that's, again, I had no system. I had no structure. I was always starting over, and it felt like I was that little person with the red hat looking at that huge mountain. I had this idea, and anytime I told people I want to sing the national anthem. Okay, like how, when, where, what? I didn't know any of that, but I just knew I had this great idea, and that was what kept me spinning in a downward spiral. until I changed my approach. And it's, like I said before, it wasn't fun, it wasn't easy, and that is also why it works. It wasn't fun for me to actually stop yakking about my great idea, which I really didn't even know how to explain very well, and start to hone in and focus. The thing that changed everything for me was a very short conversation with friends of mine. He had heard me talk about, I want to do something great with the national anthem, had 20 different ideas. In fact, I should clarify that I did not have the idea right away to sing in all 50 states. It was just that I would always just try to sing the national anthem everywhere and help people. That was kind of like basically how horribly focused I was. But when I was talking to my friend, he said to me, you have been talking about this for a long time, and what you really should do, because you're wasting a lot of time, you're wasting a lot of years, start to approach this as if this was your actual job. Like, you've got a regular company that you run, so you spend about 40 hours a week doing that. How much time additional can you give just to focusing on the goal that you have, or this brand that you're trying to work? So how do you run something? You spend a lot of time. So I said, okay, I'm going to commit 30 hours a week for 3 months. If this doesn't work, forget it. What those 30 hours, at first I had no idea what I was going to do, so I actually started to think. I broke down the goal. Well, if I'm going to sing the national anthem, okay, how would I do this? What could I do to develop this more? And I started to figure out, you know what? No one's ever sung the national anthem in all 50 states. So how do I break that down? How do I take that, make a message out of it, but then just start to pick at it bit by bit, like the little brownie bites, right? Instead of trying to climb the mountain, break it down. So I spent the time putting together the systems and the structure so that I would be able to, as I said before, support myself in reaching my goal. So this is how I did it. I broke it down into tasks. If I hadn't done that, I would probably still be wondering how I could do something with the national anthem. The ideas did not come until I sat down and focused and laid the foundation. Now, the important thing to remember about this is this. I did not have a lack of opportunities. It was just that I did not have the support or the foundation to accept those opportunities and turn them into something that would make an impact. For instance, people were asking me to sing the national anthem all over the place. That was great, but until I identified I'm going to take this thing, okay, now I have the goal, I'm going to sing the national anthem in all 50 states, stop accepting other states that I've already sung in. So if somebody from Ohio called me and said, hey, do you want to come and sing in Ohio? And I already did. You say no. You stay focused. And that's what I had to figure out. So I was able to develop my foundation or enlarge the foundation, and it was able to shrink the mountain. And that is a cure for the just do it delusion. You have to be professional about something. If you want to do anything, it's all about how you approach it. The difference between an amateur and a professional is in their habits. An amateur has amateur habits. A professional has professional habits. We can never free ourselves from habit, but we can replace bad habits with good ones. So again, the illustration, there I was with this great idea, but no way to implement it, no idea how to do it. But until I took the time to break it down and say, what can I do? How can I do it? I developed things. For instance, this little wall that you see, this photo, this was actually me taking my back room and converting it into an office. Sometimes people say, I've heard somebody say one time, I want to have my own plane. Okay. Then you get somebody that actually has their own plane, and they look at them and they kind of laugh. And it's not because they think who they are. It's more of the fact that, do you even know that you need what you need that will make that plane that will allow you to be sitting in the seat one day flying in a plane, such as you need a hangar, you need to make sure you have a pilot, you have to have all these different clearances, all these things. Everybody always just sees the big, like the big goal, and they don't see what goes into it, which is why only 3% of us ever reach those goals. Because when we just start, I remember when I was a kid, I used to say, I want to write a book, I want to write a book. I never got past the first sentence. because I didn't know how you're supposed to do it. I never was able to figure it out. So you just always think you want to do something and you waste a lot of time. So when I finally decided I'm going to sing the national anthem in all 50 states, I will tell you right now, I had no money. I had no real anything like where people say, oh, sure, you had this, whatever. No. All I had was now the time to start figuring out what systems and structure I needed to put in place. So one foot in front of the other. I started making phone calls to places I knew I could get to pretty easily, and flights weren't that expensive, and I started to etch away at my savings as well as the goal. And I made sure that everything I was doing was going to lead me to that destination. So when I realized the national anthem was turning 200 on September 14th, 2014, it was January. I had 9 months, which actually I backed it up to be 8 months because I wanted to be free for the 200th anniversary. I had 8 months to get through 30 more states. That's when I realized it. So I had been etching away. I had been building this foundation, still not completely clear about my deadline until I noticed the anthem was turning 200. And I said, now I've got to figure out how to get through 30 states. That's going to be travel. That's going to be money. That's going to be, I'm going to have to be my own booking agent, my own publicist, my own social media manager, all this stuff. I had no room for error. So I made sure everything always was done the same way. When I booked an event, I set up my template for, I had a system. I set everything up so that I wouldn't forget, oh my gosh, I got to go somewhere tomorrow and I didn't book a flight or whatever. So I became a professional in all those different areas. I had no choice. If you skip steps, you're going to undermine the structure. And if you're scattered, see, professionals are not scattered people. If you ever watch somebody on a sideline who's a basketball player or a baseball player, they're not sitting around hanging out with all the fans. They're focused. And that's like one of the biggest lessons I learned, how to really develop my ability to focus. So how does this apply to you? Enough about all that other stuff. How in the world can you now take back your goals, the way you set them? How can you figure this out? System restore or parent yourself. I heard somebody, her name is Mel Robbins, and she talks about the fact that all of us, we hit 18, we move out of our house, whatever age we are, and suddenly all the rules that we used to have to listen to our parents for when we were kids go out the window. My mom used to have a gold star chart for me. And what's funny is I know how I respond to that. I used to love the fact that I was filling up all the gold stars, especially I have an older brother and he never got all the gold stars that I did. So I would be much more motivated by seeing check marks. So I still do it. I have an Excel spreadsheet that has the most menial things in life that I need to do every day, because there are days, all of you can shake your head in agreement, that you are in fog some days, and then you feel like you got nothing done. Well, if you've got something that you could always refer to, as childish as it sounds, it's extremely useful. And I just start going through the list. I maintain. That's also the important thing here. If you don't feel like it, let's say, again, I use this analogy about writing a book. If you want to write a book and you just don't feel like doing it, you're never going to do it if you keep giving into that. Your mom, your dad, whoever, when you had to rake the leaves, they didn't listen to you and say, well, hopefully they didn't, say, you know what, you don't feel like it? No big deal. It's okay. You know that there are machines that work and they complete tasks and they accomplish goals because they're machines. It sounds kind of horrible, but if you treat yourself while you're in goal mode like a machine, you'll get there, because you're not going to give into a lot of excuses. And that one big, huge excuse that all of us have is if we all got up a little bit earlier, we'd be able to get certain other things done. For those of us who already are going to school and have full-time jobs and like 5 kids or whatever, how do you do it? Well, you can get up a little bit earlier. Make sure you go to bed early as well. But we have cell phones that become like in-bed entertainment systems. You could pretty much do everything from them. And a lot of times what I noticed is I could start working on my cell phone and it would be like, oh, sure, I got up at 5, but I didn't get out of bed until 7 because I've been sitting there messing around my cell phone. I could guarantee you none of the work was really that productive. So I don't sleep with my cell phone near me. Not a good idea. So these are some of the examples of how you can help restore your system. Basically, treat yourself like you're your own child. Sounds funny, but it's true. Here's an example of an implementation of an actual system. We all have probably, if you all look in your inboxes, you've got probably a couple thousand emails that are in there, and you always make this a simple goal. You want to make sure that your inbox is pretty much empty. Well, we all probably have done this. I know I've done this a couple of times. I've had these massive attempts that I'm going to dedicate the entire Saturday to clear out my inbox, and I'm going to start over and everything's going to be great. And it never works because the second I notice that it's really nice outside, I'm like, I should go outside, or I should do something else, and you just forget about it. So you've got this, it's a small goal, but it's still a goal, and it never gets done. And the emails keep piling up and up and up. Sorry, I live in an area that sounds like I've got NASCAR racetracks out there. Sorry if you heard that. But anyhow, getting back to this, I literally started to take 15 minutes a day just to clear out my inbox. It's boring. I hate doing it, but I make myself do it every day. That's how I am able to maintain that goal, because I sit there and I say, okay, you know what? I'm focused. I set my iPhone timer for 15 minutes and just work on just that. And then when 15 minutes goes off, I don't care where I am in that whole process, I stop. And then I move on to the next thing. This same thing applies to any of the other things you have to do, writing a book, cleaning your house, studying, all of that stuff. If you can take it and make it into bite-sized pieces, like I had to do, one state at a time, it will make it very easy to follow through, because you've actually got a structure, you've got a system in place, and it's something you can follow instead of just looking at it. Instead of just looking at it like you have no idea how to do it, you back it up. Crash diets, crash courses, get-rich schemes, whatever, they do not form habits, and that's the problem, is we don't have the habits to help support our goal. The last thing, I don't know how much longer we have, but one of the last points I'll make is there's also some other part that is very necessary, and it's more of an internal thing, and it's called integrity. We always say there's no I in team, but there are two I's in integrity, and there's that famous line, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. I talk a lot in elementary schools, and there's something that's called MAP, M-A-P, and that stands for make a promise. If you learn how to start saying, you're going to start implementing certain things, you're going to start parenting yourself, but if you also learn how to take the two words, I promise, and make sure you never use them unless you really mean you're going to do everything you can to make sure that gets accomplished, there'll also be a change inside of you, because your body will start to respond to, I heard her say I promise, that means she's going to do what she said she's going to do. And sometimes that means you have to back up and figure out how you can actually support yourself so that you can get to that goal. The way a person does one thing is the way they do everything. And if you're faithful in little things, you'll be faithful in large things. I don't know what time it is at all because my screen is enlarged, but I think that's all we got.
Thank you so much, Janine, for your insights and your great stories. I'm sure people have questions that they want to get to, so we just want to wrap up our part of the presentation, which is a few things that we want to make sure you know. We want to make sure that you know how to get in touch with us, whether that's through LinkedIn or by reaching us through my contact information, which I'll share with you in a moment. But we want you to keep the conversation going, and we want you to think about some of the concepts that you've learned tonight and think about how they might apply to your own goals or to other things that you might be wanting to achieve for yourself, whether they're short or long term. And think about how some of the things that Janine has used in her life, think about how you can implement them, and maybe if you have some questions on some of your own goals, you can ask her those yourself. So we want you to keep the conversation going, and what we'd like you to do, if you'd like, is you can go to our LinkedIn page, our St. Joseph's College New York Alumni and Friends page, where we have alumni, students, and other friends of the college post different questions, articles, and jobs for people to look at. So we'd encourage you to do that. And we'd also like to let you know if you're interested in learning more, if you have any additional questions. You can contact me at the information below. And now we're going to open it up to questions from our audience. And Janine will be able to answer anything directly. So please feel free to ask anything that you'd like.
I just see Paige's question, and yes, I'm using 15 minutes. The question you asked is, I love what you said about setting 15 minutes aside a day to take care of chores. What if the 15 minutes feels like too much? Absolutely. Different things I have certain tolerance for, so I can focus for 15 minutes on clearing out my emails, but absolutely start at 5 minutes. Or you can basically say, I've got let's just say you've got 4 hours of free time on a weekend. You can literally break that weekend up. I literally do this. I take, okay, you know what? I'm going to take 15 minutes to do my email. I'm going to take 10 minutes to, it sounds crazy, 10 minutes to shower. I set my alarm for that. I kid you not. I'm going to I know I've got a trip coming up, so I'm going to take 20 minutes to just focus on packing. When that alarm goes off, what you're training yourself to do is say, you don't feel like it's going to take forever to do. Just, hey, you know what? 20 minutes. That's great. Oh, my gosh. How do I stay focused with social media, music, and all the other stuff? The best tip is plan. I literally will try to plan the week out. That doesn't always work for me because I get calls that make me change everything on a dime. But in the morning or the night before, I will literally write out my list. And I make sure that I'm also looking at things that are, sometimes we do this and it's our way of procrastinating. It's like, oh, I know, I've got to do this. But really, you have to do, let's say, the packing for the trip or whatever, but you just don't want to deal with that. You have to make sure you're looking at the meatiest part of what needs to get done, so you're always advancing towards what is making the most sense for you to get to your goal. Achieving your goal singing the anthem in 1 year has been challenging. What was the hardest moment of your journey with students? The hardest moment of my journey was realizing that I had no money to continue on. I was at my 20th state. I've drained all my savings. And I will have to say that there is an element here that was about having faith and saying, you know what, I really feel in my heart this is important. And I've always heard people say, if you don't have a cause, you don't have a clue. So I did have passion about this. And the thing I think that helped me get through was really the structure of belief. Like, you know what, this is necessary. And it wasn't something I was like, I'm just doing this for myself. I just want to, whatever, people to know who I am. It wasn't about that. I saw a need, and I felt like it needed to be a dialogue of patriotism needed to be promoted. And that's now what I've been really able to do. Yes, I sang the national anthem since I was in high school, and I'd sung it hundreds and hundreds of times before that. So this was something that was really part of me. Yes, I did. I was actually, this is a funny story. Funny story is this. I was a freshman. It was my second day of being a freshman at St. Joseph's College, and I went to the athletic director, and I asked him if I could sing at their games. And he kind of looked at me funny because at the time that I was there was no gym. They had destroyed the gym. So he's like, we don't have a gym, but go ahead, give me a tape of yourself singing, and I'll consider it when we have one. And he did. It was really nice. 2 years later, I got a phone call, and I sang at the opening of the gym at St. Joseph's College, which was really fun. So it's been a part of me forever. Singing the national anthem, it was the first song I ever sang in public. And I was so nervous. And this is another thing I'll tell you. If you're afraid of something, you should go in the direction of what you're afraid of, because that's usually what you're strongest at. Because I was so afraid to sing, I wrapped my hand around the cord of the microphone so tightly I couldn't open it at the end. Your goal is
Janine,
okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. There's a question up here. Do you still have a paper and pencil planner, or do you use an app or phone?
Well, I kind of have been in love with using a steno pad. For some reason, I still feel like writing is a good thing because it's engaging a few more of your senses. Sometimes you write things down, you don't have to refer to it. But if you kind of just use an app, it's a little bit sterile. When I'm on the road a lot, I do use the reminder app because it allows me to do that little checkoff thing, which I don't know why. It's probably from when I was a kid with the gold stars. There's just some kind of level of like motivation to get me to be able to check it off. What's this? Your goal was unique, meaning it wasn't your typical go to grad. No, it's very true. maybe too afraid. We need more
Janine,
creative.
if you wouldn't mind reading the question so that people
Oh,
who are
sorry. I'm very sorry. Elena, your goal was unique, meaning it wasn't your typical go to grad school, get a good job. There are definitely students who have unique and creative goals, but maybe too afraid and unsure of how to take that step. We need more creativity. So what's your next step? Okay. It was scary. I had a business that I thankfully was able to run. So that's why I could change my hours whenever I needed to and work as much as I could. I do graphic design and print. I could pretty much work wherever my laptop is. So for me, that was good. As far as the safety of having, the traditional situation, that's, I think, something you have to assess for yourself. I like the adventure side. I like to go out and travel. I also am not married. I have no kids, so that allows me to do that. I would say the advice would be, again, look at the thing that you're most passionate about and then find how you can do something that works that's not going to destroy your entire life by going for it. If you've got kids, you don't want to you want to do what I did. But the creative side, there's so many things that if you just take some time and this sounds really crazy. It's funny, but you could do this. Pretend you're being interviewed about accomplishing something, and you'll be surprised at the things that come out of your mouth if you pretend. You're going to feel weird talking in a room by yourself as if like Ellen's sitting on the couch with you, but you'll start to hear some of the creativity that you could come up with, like, wow, I never thought I could do that. Sounds crazy. Try it, and let me know if it works for you. Your goal is unique. We've got that. The national anthem in all 50 states, pretty big goal. Do you have another goal? Yes, I actually have a couple of things. I want to write. I am in the process of, maybe that's why I've been referring it, writing a book that would be geared towards children so that I can talk about the journey, but also inspire them to go out and do these things as far as travel and get to see America. And I love talking to kids about how, I didn't have I didn't have money. I didn't have all these different things that a lot of people think you need. But if you are determined enough and you start young enough in those thinking processes, you can get there. So that's my other goal. And also, I really love to, goodness, I'm reading these things I shouldn't read at the same time. See, example of how focus is bad. The other thing that I am doing is I've been singing at different like presidential libraries and whatnot, and I've decided that I would auction off a flag, so 50 different flags, so that it could raise money for different veterans and families. What advice do you have for women who, as they take on more goals, it seems harder and harder to achieve? As they take on more roles, achieving goals. I just have to say, keep your head down and go. The more I looked around, the more I looked at other people, and that's it for everything. It's in the entertainment world is more obvious, like, oh, she sings better than me, or she's prettier than me, or he's, stronger than me, whatever. You have something extremely unique to give to the world, and no one else can. So I'd say focus on being you, and the different roles that you take on, make sure they really resonate with who you are, and don't compare yourself. So it is hard to achieve if you're comparing yourself to others that have done things. I have done something that no one else has done before, and no one else would probably ever want to do. But it's my own thing. And there's no competition in that. And if you're you, there's no competition. If you're trying to be Betty Crocker, there's competition, or Martha Stewart, whatever. You get the point. No, Taryn, I did not get a brownie pan. And it was funny. I thought about getting it, and I said I shouldn't get it because then when I tell the story, it's not going to be true. So, no, I did not get the brownie pan. Maybe after this I'll go out. And I'm very curious to see if anybody listening to this talk actually goes and gets brownies. Gosh, the best 3 life tips anyone has ever given you and why? Oh, boy, Elena. I think the first one is figure out who you are by doing as many things as you possibly can. Don't be afraid to fail. And walk as if you have support behind you when you figure all this out, because it'll start to come. So instead of like waiting for something to happen, make it happen. I don't know. I saw one other question, Paige, you asked me. The best person I've seen sing the national anthem, I mean, I absolutely think you can't not say Whitney Houston, you know. So I loved what she did with it, and okay, good, Paige. I like when people actually sing it so you can sing along and have a moment. I've met too many American heroes to try to make people think like, oh, is she trying out for American Idol, or is she, you know, singing the national anthem? Oh, Paige, I didn't even pay you to say that. Paige, I'm sending you brownies, Paige.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. If there are no more questions, we want to just thank Janine so much for her time tonight. I think we all really learned a lot, and we had a good time with such a fun topic. And, you know, I know personally that I've definitely gained a lot from Janine and getting to know her and working with her on this webinar. And this was a goal in and of itself. So I think that, you know, Janine definitely achieved that. With a lot of focus. So we want to thank you so much for your time tonight. We will be sending you a survey after the webinar has concluded for your feedback for future webinars. And we want to thank you so much for all of our guests who joined in with us tonight. Shannon, Elena, Paige, Lisa, Bridget, anyone else that I'm missing. We want to just make sure that we thank all of our guests. And yes, Lisa's mentioning keep the conversation going on Twitter. Our hashtag SJC Goals will be able to talk, and also at SJCNY Alumni. That's our Twitter tag. And make sure that you can reach out to Janine on Twitter as well. We'll be doing some tweets and some retweets with Janine. So we want to thank you so much for your time and enjoy your night. Thank you.